Hi, I'm Olivia Buxton and I'm here today at the iconic Ministry of Sound to launch my brand new podcast, Rewind, Back to the 90s.
Min years I've bought Lisa, that's my name is Lisa. So I set up my own business when I was 21 and I just...
That was loud and clear.
Yeah. The stick I get online, you know, it's like, whose mum's that? I unfortunately became a victim to a really shoddy accountant who hadn't paid any of my tax for many, many years. When HMRC were contacting me and going, you owe us like £173,000, and I'm like, what? I mean, I had a breakdown.
But how did you overcome that particular incident?
I couldn't believe someone would do that to me, because all I've ever done is give love to this business of ours. Do you know what I mean?
Lisa, it's such a privilege to have you here today to join me for the first episode of Rewind Back to the 90s.
Thank you, blush.
Here at the iconic Ministry of Sound.
Yeah.
Where you've played many times.
Yes.
But before we talk about that, I'd like to sort of ask you what really lit your fire to be involved in dance music in the first place?
My house, there was often music played in my house. You know, my dad was very picky. He was always like, oh, you know, yeah, that Tina Turner, she's got a voice, you know, or Ella Fitzgerald, yeah, she's got a voice, you know, and would always be like, what a load of old rubbish, this one, that one. And so there was quite a good quality kind of control thing going on. So, but for me, the most influential thing came from the soul era. And Motown was really what floated my boat. Like seeing people like Diana Ross and the Supremes, you know, Stevie Wonder. I mean, Motown, the repertoire is endless, isn't it? But it all coming from that sort of soul thing. That was definitely where I felt like my heart met the music really. And then going on from there, you know, a lot of the parties that we did or that we attended when we was much younger, you know, like climbing out of bedroom windows in our teens, Nicky Holloway's disco pubs, you know, that would all be about soul, rare groove, Evelyn Champagne-King, Cheryl Lynn, Patrice Rushen, you know, all of that sort of stuff. So that's where it all started for me. And in theory, really, you know, that sort of then moved into more of a disco vibe, I suppose. You know, watching things like Paradise Garage kind of, you know, blow up and Larry Levan and seeing that real underground kind of like house music thing build out of, you know, the disco vibe, Studio 54. Just, I don't know, somehow I was just plugged in, you know. There was a shop actually on Walworth Road. I lived in the Walworth Road. I was born and raised in South East London, just round the corner from here, actually. And there was a shop on the Walworth Road, and we used to just go down there and sort of dig through sort of 7 inches and stuff like that. And it was always a bit of a good day out, you know. It meant something, you know, a bit of a dig through some vinyl and then a sarsaparilla and then down East Street Market. And it was, you know, it all, yeah, from very young age, you know, sort of pre-double digits probably, you know, went with my dad to start with. So yeah, always had that music, but definitely the soul era was my thing.
So what was your first introduction to like house music? How did you become involved in the whole scene?
It was all about Ibiza, really. Well, I say that, but I guess really at the end of the day, what was happening with the big soul weekenders, Nicky Holloway promoting his own nights in South East London in pubs, I suppose that was, you know, what was revolutionising it becoming a real life aspect, a kind of, you know, a trait in your lifestyle, because, you know, you was like programming something in your head because you wanted to go out and dance or you wanted to hear that music. And then there was somebody that was behind that whole delivery, like the DJ, and then you wanted to see that DJ more. And so, you know, that development really for me locally was where it all come from. I think the explosion ultimately was after going to Ibiza.
How old were you when you went to Ibiza?
16.
Oh, it's quite young.
Yeah, it was quite young to be bouncing around on a terrace in Amnesia. Yeah, let's just say it wasn't very legal, I don't suppose. But there was a big group of us. My sister, who's 3 years older than me, was really good friends with Nancy Noyes, and I was really good friends with Nancy Noyes' sister. We were like, you know, we mimicked each other's ages. So, you know, Katie and I would be following whoever the pop star was. So she liked Duran Duran, I liked Culture Club. And that was like, you know, the smash hits vibe. But then, you know, out of that and into the dance music thing, Ibiza, listening to Alfredo, Amnesia, really difficult to get in, a club with no roof on, you know, watching aeroplanes go over, starlight skies, and Alfredo playing a mix of just something that we'd never heard before. And it wasn't all dance music. Actually, it was dance music. It wasn't all house music. You know, like he would play The Cure, Why Can't I Be You, alongside Mr. Fingers, Can You Feel It, alongside the Beastie Boys. You know, just like such an amazing variation of different music, but with all this intentional kind of like dance beat behind it. And I think where it was so eclectic and so different, and Ibiza had just this feeling of like real freedom, you know, nights were days, days were nights. You'd sort of go out, you know, and start in Ibiza town, and then you'd go to a club, and then you'd go to the croissant show, and then you'd go, you know, to Cafe Del Mar, you know, and it, you know, it would just be like this forever rolling kind of backdrop of brilliant music played by brilliant DJs in all these different scenarios. You know, Jose Padilla, the sunset at Cafe Del Mar. And it just blew my head off. It was like, this is music like I've never heard before. And it was really emotional. It was like a real... just a real thing. You know, it's really hard to explain, you know. I mean, I've missed so many flights coming back from Ibiza because of the sunset, you know, Jose Padilla playing Art of Noise, you know. It's like, oh, no, I'm going to miss it again. I'm going to miss the flight again, you know. Just magic, you know, like just magic, and an incredible mix of people that were... Everyone was so unique. You know, the parades in Ibiza were going on in the late 80s, and they were just bonkers, like people on stilts, some clothed, some not clothed, some transvestites, some, you know, it was just like, what is going on here, you know? It was a spectacle, you know, from day to night.
So there were a group called the Amnesiacs, is that right? So...
Well, yeah, we did get that, yeah. We got that, yeah, we got that sort of, that label, really. I suppose, I think, you know, to portray what was going on in the press in the UK at such a pivotal time in life for the scene, for music, for lifestyle, for, you know, your kind of, your teenage you growing up into being, you know, a woman, understanding where your passions lie, you know, portraying all of that in the UK press. There needed to be some kind of like identifiable sort of labels, really. And Dave Swindle's brilliant photographer who's captured so much of that. I mean, I think really he must be credited with capturing, like, you know, the most memorable moments of Ibiza. Yeah, he did a shoot back in the UK, by which time we'd launched club nights in the UK. And when I say we, really it was Paul Oakenfold and Ian St Paul, but I was hanging out with them all the time. So I was, you know, the word on the street, so to speak, the lip service, running around, you know, talking to everyone about it, making sure that all of the groups of different people that we'd met in Ibiza sort of came together and came to the opening nights and all that sort of stuff. And then Dave did the photo shoot and, you know, recreated some of, I guess, that sort of, that community spirit and, you know, some of the faces that, you know, were really there right at the start of Ibiza. In the Future, which was around the back of Heaven, the really small club. And ID kind of did a huge article on it. And yeah, from there on, there was just this life source of everybody wanting more. Yeah. It was just like an addiction to, you know, more of this music, more of this vibe, more of this inclusion, more of this, who cares what you look like? We were all in baggy flares and, you know, sweatshirts that, you know, there was no real bandanas and ponchos but it was almost what made it magic, you know, and then there'd be like a tranny walking in with, you know, kind of, you know, footless tights and high heels into the club. And I mean, Prince came to Future.
Did he?
You know, like the purple one, you know? It's like, he's my favourite artist of all time, Prince. Wow. You know, this guy.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, he literally plays every single instrument, wrote songs.
So did you know he was going to come?
No, I don't know that there was like a sort of whisper or anything. And then the next thing, you know, the purple one's in the future, you know. It was...
So he was just like grooving away on the dance floor.
Yeah, you know, but loads of Prince songs were part of the repertoire that was getting played.
Yeah.
Sign of the Times album was one of the albums that really did seem to sit within that little bit alternative, very dancey, you know, it crossed into sort of housey, disco-y. Yeah, you know, I mean, what a talent.
So did Prince come to actually your DJ set? Because I know that...
Oh, I doubt that. I doubt that.
That would have been the dream.
I doubt that, you know. I think at the helm on that particular night was Oki, Tony Wilson and Nancy DJing. I think I was just dancing on some platform somewhere with a foghorn or something.
So this is before you became a DJ yourself?
Yeah, because I ended up being a stand-in when Nancy was not well once, and Oki was like, you know...
But he'd already kind of taught you the ropes, so hadn't he? He'd already given you...
We were hanging out all the time, you know, so I spent a lot of time with people like Paul Oakenfold and Carl Cox in their rooms with their two sort of SL1200s, listening to music, you know, vinyl everywhere, you know, like chaos and, you know, like this is techno, this is house, this is, you know, yeah. And Oki just said, you know, you can do this, Mac. He used to call me Mac. And
Why Mac?
Because my surname's Mackay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you can do this, Mac.
Yeah, and it sort of taught me how to beat match. And then there was an opportunity, not an opportunity, because obviously poor Nancy wasn't very well, but, you know, they needed a fill-in. And that was it from that day forward, and it never really looked back.
How did that go that night, though? Weren't you really nervous?
It was, I mean, I wasn't nervous because I felt so much a part of it, if that makes sense. So it was like we were all mates and like in this thing, this like envelope of love every time we went out. Do you know what I mean? And like it was really quite natural. And actually, I could do it. I actually could do it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I think when he said you can do it, I was a bit like, oh God, no way, you know, because I'd always idolised him going, come on, okay, you know, in every club or whatever. Yeah, and I could do it. And it was great. And it was really liberating and it was wholesome and, you know, it was just all full of love and light. And yeah, from that day forward, I never really looked back.
So what was the springboard after that? Because you obviously worked for Richard Branson at Virgin, didn't you?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, so actually, again, Oki's fault. I'd sort of watch him DJ. We'd be out on the road somewhere, whatever club or Soul Weekender or something. And then I'd sort of see records that he'd played a couple of weeks or a few weeks later, like in the chart, because Top of the Pops was like a real thing. It was like, I've got to stay up till Top of the Pops, you know, and you'd record it on your Grundig, you know, like, right, pause, because you don't want them talking, do you? You just want all the music and all that sort of stuff. And then I'd see, like, these records becoming hits and being on Top of the Pops. And it just really intrigued me. And at that very young age, I just thought, how does that work? And I would never shy away from asking lots of questions and asked Paul, you know, like, how does that happen? He's like, well, behind it all, there's like this great big machine, you know, the music business, you know. And I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to work in the music business. And so I just, you know, started knocking on doors, really. And I met a girl at Prestatin, which was one of the Soul Weekenders. Oki was DJing. We did a Spectrum room. It was like, you know, Soul Weekender with Chris Hill, Kev Hill and all that. And then you've got like Jolly Roger acid house music being played in some other room with all these kids with like bandanas on and smiley face baggy T-shirts ripped up and... Yeah, like, you know, we really put a new meaning to the clubbing world on those sort of trips. And and I met a girl, and she was running the dance department, which was for Virgin Records. And I was like, I want to make your tea. I want to, mail out your records. I'll do anything. I'll do your filing. I'll do anything. And she said, one day, like, well, come on then, you're driving me mental, non-stop on the phone to her. And she gave me my first break. And then from there on, I worked there. We had great success there. It was a wonderful time to be alive. Yeah. So I worked on Soul to Soul, so Club Classics Volume 1. I worked on Inner City, Paradise, which was their launch into, the mainstream dance floor. Massive Attack, Blue Line, some of the most reputable sort of dance music albums, and still the most reputable dance music artists, in the sense of, it was such a culture of like buying 12 inches, buying records, spending your day in the record shop, to, wow, these like magnificent artists are like actually writing songs and making albums. And it was a really big deal because dance music wasn't perceived like that, So yeah, some beautiful gold and platinum discs to my name, which is a bit of a legacy to leave the little one,
Oh yeah, your son, because he's 13, isn't he?
Yeah.
He must be very proud, isn't he?
I think we're in a proud zone at the moment.
Not an embarrassed.
We've been there, and I'm sure that the embarrassing is going to come back, and the like, please don't talk to me when I'm with so and so. So I'm rolling with the punches. Let's say that. Yeah.
So the job at Virgin also entailed you travelling around the country, didn't it? And so you visited the Hacienda.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, ultimately, like London was always a scene, it's the capital, like, loads of really famous record shops, all in Soho, like all the DJs, all the heads in them regularly. So London was, it was really pivotal in the kind of skeleton of anything kind of becoming, popular or, remotely crossing over into like a bigger sort of realm, bigger sales and stuff. But if you needed to break a record, you needed to break it throughout the whole country. And, there were record shops, like 23rd Precinct, Glasgow, Spinning in Manchester, it would be an all-encompassing, like, get the white labels on board, get the acetates, get down to the record shop, drop off some white labels. They'd then hold them for their A-list DJs and get the acetates played in the clubs, and Hacienda was the club to be. I had some amazing times there.
So what was your biggest track? Was it Inner City?
When we took Inner City Big Fun up there, I sort of, there was like steps up to the DJ booth, and we used to go on a Friday night. It was Mike Pickering and Graham Park, legends. And I bang on the door with this acetate, and I was like, Parky, you've got to get this on the decks right now. And before I could get back down the stairs, I could hear the do, which was the Big Fun intro. And then when the piano riff came in, that dun, 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 I couldn't get down them stairs quick enough. But the whole of the Hass, and of course there's no filming and no pictures of, like, there is some, but that particular, it still makes me go like, yes. It was an incredible moment, and it's one I'll never forget. That record will always remind me of that specific club, Graham, Mike, that moment, flying down them stairs, not getting there quick enough.
So Richard Branson was lucky to have you then.
Well, we certainly clocked up some sales. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I mean, the guy that I ended up working with and I were running the dance department, and we were awarded an Oscar, which was an outstanding contributions award, which was just something made up for fun, because when, what was brilliant about Branson is he always had like a young mind, so he'd do like Virgin Weekend Away, Virgin Parties.
What a laugh.
And oh my God, they were mandatory. But you didn't not want to go anyway. I mean, you wanted to be at those things, and we was awarded that because we were outselling. I mean, the dance music that we were promoting was outselling artists like Belinda Carlisle and Phil Collins, which is, it's just mental, isn't it? You know, and it was revolutionising life, I think, freedom was more acceptable. I mean, we were getting in trouble with the government, and obviously, there was,
there was the crackdowns of police, wasn't there?
All of that sort of stuff. But
Criminal Justice Bill in 94.
Criminal Justice Bill. But these massive acts crossing over was giving a message to so many more folk than, kind of where it all started for me is banging on a pirate radio station door with like 15 locks. Cause might be the old bill, we might get taken off air, be like clunk, 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 clunk. And I'd be dropping off acetates for power play, And that sort of, it became much bigger than that.
So I bet Branson was disappointed to lose you, wasn't he?
Oh, I don't know. I think I became a bit of a pain in the arse, to be honest. But
what? Because you were off DJing at night time?
I don't know. I mean, it was time to move on. Virgin Records in the dance arena had become a bit of a victim of its own success. And what ended up happening was there was just far too many signings for us to really give, these releases the sort of commitment and control and development and marketing that they needed to be like. It's not every day soul to soul are going to walk in the door. So some people need a bit more help or a bit more, kind of like development, And, I think like in any story, when there's success, you think you're just going to keep rolling it out. And it's not like that because things get saturated, people get more choosy. People stop looking to you for influence because you're no longer cool and credible. You're just chucking music out there. And so I set up my own business when I was 21 and I just...
That was Loud and Clear?
Yeah.
Wow. And was that a pivotal moment for you in your career?
Yeah, I mean, if I look back at that now, I'd absolutely do my, I wasn't scared of anything. I wasn't scared of anything.
Fearless.
I was really fearless and I was just happy all the time and just feeling a part of something that was revolutionising, the world that we were all living in, really.
But you had some great artists, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, predominantly, I was promoting like the independent labels. So Junior Boyzone, Gorilla, Tomato, Cowboy, all of the... That's sort of what happened. Like all of the cool club promoters and DJs that had sort of, been really pivotal in breaking, the records like Inner City and stuff like that, became the record label owners and the new club night owners. And, then there was like another arm to it all, which sort of mushroomed and developed even further. Yeah.
So is it like Left Field and like Ronnie Size?
Yeah, that I did do big artists, yeah. So Left Field, Ronnie Size. Who else did I do? I worked on the Talking Loud label with Giles Peterson and so that which was amazing because everything that they did was just so purist. D-Light, Ultranate. Yeah, so some really cool stuff. Really cool stuff.
So when did your own journey as a DJ really kick off?
87.
And what was your first kind of big gig that you landed?
I mean, I think really your first gig is your big gig, because it's like where you go, God, are my feet going to fill these shoes? It's like, am I grounded enough to actually get this right? Is this going to work? Am I going to be received okay? So that is something that you really have to channel for, you're an entertainer, but not in the same way as like a big singer or anything like that. You've got to keep it going. There's got to be no gaps. There's got, all of that sort of stuff. So I've got to say, the first gig I ever did. But then going on from there, obviously, because Future was first, then we did Spectrum, and Spectrum was Monday night, heaven, the whole nightclub. started off with 400 people and ended up with 1,600 people every Monday. Every Monday.
That's incredible. Did you have any famous people come along to that?
Yeah. Loads of real Soho kind of, faces and stuff.
And
Boy George.
Boy George.
Yeah, because I used to love culture clubs, so I was DJing in the Star Bar one night, and Boy George walked in, and I was like, nearly had a heart attack. I was like, Boy George, I used to sit outside his house in like St John's Wood, It was really like, I was really starstruck. Bananarama, they were always a giggle, falling off stools and, all sorts of crazy stuff. Enjoying themselves, yeah. And just real characters like Phil Dirtbox. Gary Hazeman. Just like, all of those faces that really lit up London and Soho and made a really big difference, because the characteristics of what's happening now is not really the same. It's a bit plastic fantastic, whereas these people, everybody looked completely different. This one would be into ska music, that one would be into house music, and then there'd be like pop artists and... Yeah, the inclusion and the beauty of all of those different vibes and characters was I think what really gave us a different life.
Yeah. But obviously outside of London you're also very popular. Like you played at the launch of Back to Basics in Leeds.
Yeah.
Which is
legendary, a legendary nightclub. Yeah, I think one of the things that was really satisfying for me is having been there quite early on, and sort of going through all of the learning curve that I went through at Virgin and then sort of setting up my own thing is how kind of integrated I was with everybody. So when Back to Basics or Venus in Nottingham or the Arches in Glasgow, or when all of these
Moneypennies in Birmingham.
Moneypennies, I would often be, a little connection to, I can get you so-and-so, shall I speak to so-and-so for you? And, watching, that evolve as well was a very different story to just going and DJing myself, because suddenly we're sort of, wow, we're on lineups with like 5 or 6 of my mates now, and it was like a big old jolly rolling up and down the motorway,
Yeah.
Hard work, but great fun.
And how did you get into Back to Basics? Who was that through?
Dave Beer. Dave Beer. Well, I don't know if Dave made the call or whether Alistair did, God rest his soul.
Yeah, because he died in that car accident, didn't he?
Yeah, it was horrific.
Yeah.
I can't actually remember. Yeah, but the head honchos, basically. So, and that was mad. That opened in a room that, really and truly looked like a corridor, really. It's like people like slumped down on this soggy carpet with like sweat dripping off the walls, and
brilliant.
Oh, it's just so like, I was like, you've got this, you've got this. This is where it's all going to go off, Did
you know that the club was going to be the success it was when you played on that first
time?
No,
I really didn't. It
just became so big, didn't it?
Yeah, clubbing was a way of life.
Yeah. It was like a religion, basically.
It was, and it really meant a lot to... I think a lot of people became who they didn't know they were.
Yeah.
And developed, a lot of their characteristics off the back of integrating with so many interesting people.
Yeah, because it's like doctors and nurses.
There was
just this real mix.
Yeah, lawyers, pop stars, hippies.
Yeah, with this common denominator.
Business, just about the music.
And wanting to have a good time.
Yeah.
That kind of sense of freedom and innocence.
Yeah.
That kind of decade really represented.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible. And just, I think, I probably speak for many of us. Thank goodness there wasn't too much footage.
But then so many people met their kind of future partners, didn't they? They got married, they've had kids.
There was people like, proposing to each other in those nightclubs and stuff. And Spectrum, the funniest thing about Spectrum, I think, and it is well documented, but it is a mad story. It's like, like Millwall and Chelsea fans were notoriously a bit thuggery, Well, and West Ham. They all of them, I could say the names, but I won't, but they've all been on telly anyway. But, But, you know, Spectrum, it was like, you know, we're leaving the thuggery at the door. You know, you see like a notorious thug from like Millwall. I lived in Southeast London, hugging like, you know, some guy, you know, a notorious thug or pitch invader from Chelsea FC. You know, and I mean, you know, we'd often be in the DJ booth and I'd be like, oh my God, look at so-and-so. Like, you know, so anyway, we all know why that was, don't we?
So it was all the love.
It was the love drug.
The love drug.
Yeah, it was the love drug. Kicked in, yeah.
So when did your career really take off in Ibiza? What was, obviously you've been there as a 16-year-old, but what was your first kind of big gig there?
God, so it would be early 90s. I mean, again,
you
one
played
of
at
the
Manumission, didn't you?
that
Amnesia,
was
Paradise.
Yeah. So I would say like early 90s. There became, as things kind of developed, there was an association with everybody, sort of dance music wise, that was doing like clubs up and down the. So Miss Moneypenny's, Back to Basics, even Zouk nightclub in Singapore. I mean, Lincoln Cheng, the owner of that, based the design of that on Pasha. So he would do nights, and I was also DJing around the world a lot. So I was doing loads of Southeast Asia tours and stuff like that. I'm playing for people like Lincoln quite often. So there was, I mean, Cream was a super club and did it completely, I think, a little bit differently. But all of those brands that were part of my family, part of, you know, my nurturing and their nurturing and us all, you know, doing something together, ended up doing nights in Ibiza. So I sort of ended up playing for UK club brands in Ibiza. I did play for Ibiza venues as well, and did both. I mean, like Clockwork Orange, for example, you know, they were, you know, two cheeky chaps from, you know, Essex.
Yeah.
And I really helped them. I helped them get in touch with quite a lot of DJs. Turn Mills was really big in the UK at the time. So linking them up with people like Tall Paul and DJs that were on, you know, the Turn Mills kind of stratosphere.
What was it like playing clubs like Manumission?
Well, Manumission was, I mean, I did 1999 New Year's Eve.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit of it's a mad like, you know, now and then like these groups on Facebook will go, you know, what were you? Can you remember what you were doing on 1999 New Year's Eve? Like, DJing Manumission. They're like, okay, mic drop it. That was mad because the way that the Spanish celebrate, there's like a whole week of different things. There's like a night where they eat grapes, there's this. So literally was DJing for 7 nights. The motel was, you know, crazy, hedonistic, mad. And Manumission, you know, was like 15,000 people. Well, actually, what was it? It was definitely more than 10,000 people. I mean, it's like a stadium, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But where I'd sort of done quite a lot of stuff with them, I knew quite a lot of the punters. So there was a really nice affiliation to people and, you know, hanging out with them after. And because people went for the whole week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
I mean, did David Guetta own the club then, or...?
No. It was Dawn and Andy.
It was Andy Manumission.
Oh, no, I don't know. The Spanish owned it.
Yeah, Spanish owned it, yeah.
But it was Dawn, Andy, Mike and Claire that really, I think, held down the crux of the business. They still did like Spanish nights. Like when we was going to Ibiza years and years ago, you know, there's a guy called Cesar that used to DJ in Coup. It was then.
Yeah. Which is now Universe, isn't it?
It's now Universe. Yeah.
It's just massive. It's got its closing party coming up.
Right, yeah. I mean, you know, massive.
Massive club, yeah.
You know, and a different experience. I think Carl Cox still, you know, really delivers as a DJ. But
he does.
You know, many other DJs, I keep sort of, you know, nowadays seeing... wow, that was an entrance, man. And it's like, oh, you know, right. So now we're focusing on like how someone's getting into the venue, you know, which is sort of obviously that was never going on when we were like scurrying around like little rats in You know,
in Pasha through the little network
yeah,
of
you know,
corridors
like, you know, the less that people saw of us, the better, really, sort of thing.
What do you think now? Because they've all become superclubs, haven't they? Do you feel like they've lost their identity in a way? What do you think about?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I do. I think from my perspective, and probably everyone in my scene, my genre, my age. I mean, the stick I get online, you know, it's like, do you know what I mean? Whose mum's that?
Really?
You know, aren't you too old to be a DJ? Oh God, what was a cracker the other day? Married to King Charles, so I obviously look like Camilla.
Oh, I never thought that about you.
No, neither did I. But you know, you get a fair bit of stick online, and you know, I mean, fortunately,
which you would never have got back in the day.
God, well, you know, we weren't online anyway. You know,
Yeah.
like, you know, if we were lucky, we had a burner phone that was about, you know, as big as the record case. So it's like, you know, there was none of that going on. But it was all for, you know, it was all inclusive. It was, you know, the spectacle was the moment, not the, someone's flying into this venue on, you know, a tightrope sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Manumission was, you know, there was circusry and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. You know, it was very different. There was a actual show. But that was what they did, you know. They were the only people doing that.
That was renowned for, wasn't it? Couples having sex on stage.
Yeah. Very, very.
So it will go on. So is there a sort of standout moment from your time in Ibiza, like anyone maybe that you played on the same sort of lineup with that night, or DJ kind of like Sankey's, I don't know, for example, like with, I don't know, Todd Terry. Was there anyone particular that you...
I think. I mean, I respect absolutely everybody, and, you know, the people that... If you look at Todd Terry's career, in 1988, we were playing Oranges, Lemons, Dreams of Santa Ana, and that's Todd Terry. And now we are like 40 years later, and he's making massive club records.
I know.
People like that, they're just, you know... They were born to make tunes, you know, like, you know, I think for me, you know, the sort of love and the, oh, wow, feelings was always around the original Spanish lot. And I guess it's because it used to take me back to that moment of like, but, you know, I mean, you know, DJing with my old bestie Blocko, you know, I mean, I love any time I do that, you know, you know. I was recently with Jeremy Healy and had such a brilliant trip. This was another 90s.
Where was that?
That was in Aberdeen.
Okay.
Love Child, the guy Doug, we've all DJ'd for him before. And Jeremy and I, you know, flew up and sort of did the travel and everything together. And, it was just... It just felt right, you know, and absolutely the same as it did 30 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever.
I still think he's one of the best DJs.
He's just, you know, Jeremy, isn't he? You know, it's all like scratch, 45 seconds of a record, the biggest hits you're ever going to, you know, it's like Jive Bunny on acid, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, so it's like, and he's brilliant at it, you know. You know, if you want to watch someone do that, watch Jeremy Healy, you know.
So how did you come up with your kind of sound? What made you unique? When you started, how did you decided to develop that particular kind of tribal sound?
Yeah, I think ultimately I was very lucky because I was around a lot of brilliant music from peers, promoting lots of brilliant music. I think the tribal thing, my love for Danny Tenaglia, really, it literally is his fault. But I'm another, you know, like music maestro. Like I can't even count how many records I've got by Danny Tenaglia on my files. You know, that kind of big ass kind of drum sound that is very different. It's not cluttered. It's quite stripped back. You know, it's all about the bass line. It's all about, you know, like giving it some. You know, and obviously needs to be played on brilliant sound systems. Yes, probably Danny was my big influence in respect of it going, you know, that sort of way. I mean, now I'm different again, you know. Lockdown has changed the way I feel. I'm older. I'll still be pulling out Danny Tenaglia for the rest of my life, don't get me wrong. But, you know, I also like the soulful side. I've always loved that, but it wasn't necessarily what I played. But, you know, I play gigs that are either, you know, that kind of real get your club on, you know, let's get in this basement and sweat mofo, or, you know, it's quite soulful, but it's not fairy soulful. It's
yeah. But you're still very you're renowned, aren't you, for your energetic sets?
I guess. I don't know.
Like, leaping around.
Well, like, you know, what's the point in being there and not having a good time yourself? It's like I'm always a bit nervous. I always get a bit jelly belly. Yeah. Probably more so now than I did in the Acid House days. And in the Acid House days, no one really cared about anything. Do you know what I mean? But I'm always conscientious. I've always got something that's sort of, you know, keeping, you know, my awareness about me, who I am, who it's important to, what am I going to be, how am I going to open it up, where am I going to take it, you know. So I bother a lot. I really care about my work, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I buy those records because they make me want to dance. So I dance too. Yeah. I get stick for that online as well.
Do
they can all bog off.
What do they say?
Oh, you should be on the other side of the decks if you want to dance. It's like, piss off.
It's so people have got nothing better to say.
You shouldn't trust a DJ that can't dance anyway. That's my story.
Do you think you're still as hedonistic as ever?
Oh, I do. I am a bit of a party starter. I don't know. I think once it's in you, isn't it? I mean, you know, I've got a boy.
Yeah. So you have to be
home by 5:45. So that I'm back up at 7.
You have to be fairly
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping it. Oh no, I'm keeping it real. I am keeping it real. But yeah.
Always the last at a party.
I love to party, you know. Yeah. I love people. I love what you've all been up to, what's going on, and music is my life, you know. It's been nearly 40 years. I don't know how I migrate out of this into something else. Do you know what I mean?
So you can't see yourself doing anything else, really?
I don't know what else. If there was ever any kind of different juncture, it would probably be fashion, you know, and I'd probably somehow make that work with music because I'd do events and there'd have to be a DJ or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's really hard actually. And it's quite hard to get to this stage of my life. I think, you know, let's be honest, you know, I'm, you know, mid-50s. I've been doing the same thing for all my life. I'm blessed to still be working. I mean, I work for lots of brilliant clubs that are still underground that you don't really, you know, it's not the massive kind of brand names, which really works for me. But yeah, I don't know where I would go or what expertise I could give, because also what happens, and you have to embrace change, is all the technology shifting, the way that social media works now, you know, so, you know, all those years of like, you know, a Post-it note on a phone box and like, you know, following a convoy down the M1 or whatever, you know, it's all translated so differently. And I'm not an expert in any of that.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can make people happy and dance. I'm all right at that, you know, but where do you go from here?
Yeah. So you talked about lockdown. Was that a very difficult time for you? I remember talking to Danny Rampling, and obviously it was, you know, especially for DJs and nightclubs closing and not being out on the road and you know.
I mean, you know, isolation for people like us, I don't think is really good for your mental health anyway. And whilst things might be different in a scene, you and what your psyche is, it thrives off of atmosphere, people, interjection, you know, and all of that. It was tough. It was really tough. My son was very young. I had a kid that was probably venturing into Xbox territory, and it was like, oh, I can't get him off the Xbox. And 5,000 emails from the school going, has he done his maths lesson? And me going, I'm not a maths teacher. And, you know, really hard, an enormous impact on just everything. I also changed musically again in lockdown because it was like, you know, it was a kitchen disco rather than a rave, you know. So the kitchen disco was probably more subtle and wasn't as banging, you know. So lots of changes.
And your partner's a DJ as
He
well.
is, yeah,
So
a brilliant DJ.
So he had a very good influence in your lockdown, did he?
He did. And he brought me a sound that was, you know, very much only his. So good. Like, you know, like he'll hear a DJ play a record and, you know, I can see him still looking for it a week later, do you know what I mean? Or something. He is a real purist. And he DJs a lot in Hackney and, you know, does all of that sort of scene, the sort of real underground, but very soulful, but very, very cool. Very cool sound, yeah.
So in the run-up to lockdown, you had quite a tricky time, didn't you? Did you feel a bit out on a limb where you were being booked for various DJ gigs that you didn't feel really reflected your true sound or personality? Yeah,
so what happened I was obviously DJing from about 1987. And I called it a motorway DJ just because you could literally go all the way up the motorway from London to Scotland and there would be a fantastic club night. So I did years of that, you know, Birmingham, Leeds, Nottingham, Manchester, etc. And then there was it started to get harder. The music started to get harder. I think there was a drug shift, you know, it wasn't really the ecstasy vibe. I think it was a bit more whizzy and speedy, and the young ones were, you know, buying things that were cheaper, which was speed. Music got faster. And people like Lisa Lashes and Lisa Pinup kind of, you know, became very, very successful. But obviously, you know, musically, there was no relation or meeting of minds with me and them, lovely girls, you know, and totally hands up for their success. Love it. But younger promoters didn't really understand the full history of dance music. They're just coming into it, you know. And I'd often get booked on a lineup for a Lisa show, you know, and it's like when you're playing stuff on, you know, Hot Creations, Jamie Jones's label, and then suddenly someone comes on and goes dung 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 dung. You're going down like a fart in church, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, you're. It's not cleansing the dance floor and rebuilding it up again. It's like frightening people off and them going, who is she? You know, that could be disheartening. But I grew my international wings and I went and toured quite a lot. So
that's good. And that's when obviously, and you did Russia as well, didn't you? Which is a big thing for you.
Yeah. So sort of like late 90s, 2000s, I was doing, I mean, I toured China, I toured Russia. I used to spend about 3 or 4 months in Thailand as a base, but then I'd go on from there to do sort of Singapore, Malaysia, you know, pop off and do like an Australia tour for like 3 weeks or something, and spent a lot of my time internationally.
So was it Abramovich? Did you play for him or?
Well, he turned up on a yacht.
Did he?
He turned up on a yacht at a party. Yeah. He did. He did. It's like it's Roman Abramovich's yacht coming, like, you know, because this guy bought a fort.
No.
He bought a fort because he wanted to have a party. So when I was DJing in Russia a lot, he contacted us, was just like, you know, I want to make a party, I want to make a festival. And I was like, oh, all right, you know, keep in touch. And then just one day he like called my agent and was like, yes, tell Lisa we need her now because I bought a fort. It's like, bought a fort. Like, you know, bought a castle in the middle of the water. Right, okay. So, and then I was the face of that brand. It was called Fort Dance. It was the only kind of festival that was promoted, you know, within Russia, really. And very early, really, considering, you know, sort of, you know, the way the world is and everything. So it's 2002, I think. So I toured the whole of Russia, like every place in Russia. Nizhny Novgorod, Novosibirsk, Ekaterinburg, Omsk.
Great accent.
Yeah, I'd learned a little bit of Russian. Mnie zовут Lisa. That's my name is Lisa. You know, because I had to. I was like constantly like on these flights with like, you know, 20 really, really long-legged beauties who were the dancers and my tour manager, you know. That was it. I had to sort of learn how to start saying hello and how are you and stuff like that, because otherwise it was, yeah.
What a memory to have.
That was incredible. I mean, I've never, you know, it blew my mind.
So the music business is obviously notoriously tough, can be cutthroat. What's the biggest sort of struggle you faced or the biggest obstacle you've had to kind of overcome?
I just think that there's a lot of sharks out there, you know. I, unfortunately, became a victim to a really shoddy accountant who hadn't paid any of my tax for many, many years.
When was that? What period?
So that was like 90s. I mean, the figures when HMRC were contacting me and going, you owe us like £173,000. And I'm like, what? So it's like 10 years had gone by. No money had been paid to HMRC.
So he hadn't been doing your tax returns or hadn't been doing your tax returns?
He hadn't been doing them. So he did go to prison, actually. I mean, this guy was Nude Records, Suede, Pressure Drop, Primal Scream, me. Yeah, I mean, I still can't understand how did that get like that. And I think he's completely just bonkers. I don't think he's a shark. But there are sharks, and I've come a cropper to quite a few of them.
How did you overcome that particular incident?
Well,
it's a lot of. Did you obviously have to pay 170?
No, we countersued. Eventually, I countersued to the HMRC. And I got a reduction on because they were charging me for accrued penalties and interest. But actually, I didn't know it was going on. So, you know, it brought it down. I mean, you know, by the hair of my chinny chin chin, my mum, remortgaging my house.
Yeah.
You know, like.
You didn't lose your house, luckily.
I didn't, you know, on this occasion. No, I didn't. And remarkably, but that's family, really. That wasn't down to me.
Yeah.
But the impact on my mental health was enormous. I mean, I had a breakdown.
Did you?
Yeah, I was very ill.
So
I couldn't believe someone would do that to me, because all I've ever done is give love to this business of ours. Do you know what I mean?
And
it
working
was like,
relentlessly and touring relentlessly, and sometimes you just expect somebody else to take.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking.
So what, did you have to take time out from DJing?
Yeah. I mean, I kept trying to fix it and work through it, but it was so massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually I just had to go. Stop, because I had my business as well at the same time. I just had to just stop.
So what happened with the business then?
Just folded it.
And did you have tape by this point?
No. He came along in 2011.
So that was all but that was a very sort of turbulent time for you.
So hard. You know, you don't know who you are anymore. You know, you lose confidence in yourself. You think it's your fault. You know, mental health is a massive struggle in this business anyway. I've been asked to sort of do panels and stuff with people like Brandon, who, you know, does things where he tries to sort of help people, encourage people that it's actually okay not to be okay as well. But my God, I couldn't face it. I couldn't let people know that I was having this horrendous time. It was, you know, my pride was here and I was just here.
So who was looking out for you in that time then?
Oh, no, you know, I mean, my family and friends. Mm-hmm. But no one can fix a drama of that magnitude. It was just so massive, Liv, you know? It was huge.
Did you lose everything then?
I lost everything, and I lost a lot of me.
Yeah. And so who or what kind of built you back up again?
You know, it's all down to you again.
Yeah, it is. So,
You either give it another shot or find another way, or, you know, and I had to keep everything within like a general bandwidth of, you know, I know what I know. So I'm going to have to sort of try and explore, you know, work again in the areas that I know. Mm. And I did do some great stuff. I launched some venues and, you know, was kind of business development for 26 Leek Street and, you know, various things, DJing. you know, it's a bit hazy and it's always a bit, I think when you go through really big trauma, there's bits that have just still got that static. You don't really kind of, you know, fully get your memory back about it because you don't want to if you don't have to.
Did it put you off kind of going back into the business at all, or?
I don't think I was put off by the business. I just think that I was so afraid of people and whether someone had an agenda and whether if that happened to me again, am I going to be able to cope with that? Like, you know, because it was big, you know, it was big.
And it was big. It's the biggest thing that probably has happened to you.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. But then after that, so since then, you've kind of managed your own diary.
Yes, yeah, it's weird. It's, I suppose there's a bit of, you know, OCD comes into, you know, the way that you think, the way that you execute, is something done on time, you know, and we were talking about ADHD earlier.
Yeah.
And it's like that whole thing of if I don't do something sort of as it comes to me, which can be a good thing.
Yeah.
And I get distracted.
Yeah.
I find myself in procrastination because I'll get overwhelmed and then I didn't do that thing or whatever, you know. So there's quite a lot of challenges. The music business is a tough old bird.
Yeah.
But if it's in you, it's in you. Yeah.
And now we've obviously kind of seen the renaissance of the 90s. Like people like Jo Wiley are going out, you know, playing all her 90s tracks.
Yeah.
You know, the Scala have got a big 90s event, you know, at Christmas. Why do you think it's such a popular time? Why do you think there's been this renaissance now?
Well, I think a majority, not me, geriatric mother, which is a term.
Me too.
Which is a term. They actually say it in hospitals, if you will. Like, oh, my God. But, you know, most of our generation have had their children and they're grown up and they've got their disposable income. And I think they feel like you and I.
Yeah.
They, you know, the music policy, they want the same stuff. They want to go out and lose their shit to dance music. They don't want to be in a room full of children with a camera going, wow, isn't this guy flying into this venue something spectacular? They want to be getting down and going home with their knees hurting.
Yeah.
You know, because that way of life and that magic and that you know, that collectivity. Actually, I DJ pretty much now only to, you know, people of my age or 40 or sort of onwards. I mean, you know, there are some, you know, younger folk that sort of come in and, you know, really dig it because they are people that, you know, are looking at the history and, you know, there's some brilliant young DJs playing vinyl at the moment, like wicked tech house and wicked deep house DJs. You know, there's a couple of girls that I'm like really, you know, I'm infatuated by and I just love that, you know. So Tiger Balm's amazing.
Yeah.
G Lane's amazing. G Lane's like, she's producing like stuff that's like almost like, you know, like neon electronic. I don't know what to call it. And then Tiger Balm, it's like her music sounds like that name. It's like, you know, tribally and there's jungle sounds and yet it's just, it fits completely in with exactly where I want to be, you know, going mad on the dance floor, So
you're in demand as ever before, aren't you?
I'm really lucky, actually. I have built things back up and I am doing some fantastic stuff. I mean, I'm booked now for the rest of the year. Taking bookings for next year. Some of the people that I work for or have worked for in the last few years are constantly having me back. So we're getting that sort of peppered effect of, right, well, I work for you every year now doing that, and that's fantastic because it's a bit of security. I'm still, you know, suffering the consequences of the financial woes that COVID left behind for people like us. The creative industry was the hardest hit.
Yeah, it's decimated, really.
I mean, I am my own boss. I am, you know, take me off the shop floor and there is no work.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're all building up, you know, rebuilding our lives as well, you know, so. But
fans still come to watch you play, don't they? They love you and just remember you from back in the day, don't they?
Hope so. I've had some funny stories lately. I was saying just earlier. So I was in Ibiza a couple of weeks ago and I was DJing at it's a beach bar restaurant really, but with DJs, and that thing really appeals to me nowadays. Of course, I like clubs and stuff still, but that's really nice. You know, have a bit of lunch, have a bit of a dance. You know, it's just a little bit more grown up.
They call it soft clubbing now or something, don't they?
Oh, do they? Oh, right. Oh, I don't know. See, I'm not as on the case as I used to be.
I think it's soft clubbing. I think it's daytime raving, basically.
Okay. Yeah. There's more and more of that.
Yeah.
I mean, there is more and more of that, and I do like it. But then I always choose that option and think, I'm going to be in bed by 10, and then I've had such a good time, I then want to go to an after party in Hackney, so I end up still going home at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that don't work at all with me. It just means I'm out for longer.
I love it.
Oh God!
But
yeah,
so
the story. Sorry. Yeah. So
it's me that took your feet.
Oh no. So I'm DJing in Tanit in Ibiza, and this guy comes up to me, who is not the guy that we're going to talk about, but this guy comes up to me and he's like, Lisa, I'm here with my friend Chris. He's got a picture of you and him on the Space Terrace in 1997. And I was like, what, and he's here? And he's like, yeah. He's like, is it really out of order to us to recreate that picture? And I was like, no, this is like the best story. This is a highlight of my day. So it was a really funny story. We recreated it, and it's out there online, and it's just got so many lovely comments. It just goes to show you that people's hearts, you know, and minds of an era, they must immediately float back and connect. And then this weekend, I was just up in Yarm, which is up north, like Middlesbrough sort of area, and a girl come and did that. I think this is going to start happening to me now.
Yeah,
and then
everyone's going to be like, I want my picture with you.
And then a girl come and said, you see that picture? And I was like, that's me. Can we recreate it? But there was a percussionist called Pav who was massive in the 90s. He's still playing. And the promoter put like a turban on his head. And we tried to recreate it. I'm like, I don't think this is going to get as much traction, funnily enough, because you don't look a bit like Pav. But anyway, so that one will be hitting the internet near you soon.
And wasn't there another girl or something that came up and said to you?
Yeah, this is Saturday. Yeah, just now, like this Saturday before coming. Yeah, funny, like really funny.
But that other guy hadn't been back to Ibiza for
27 years.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah, so he basically, since that year in Ibiza, hadn't been back. How funny.
He must have just, oh my God.
How funny. I mean, it's just so funny, isn't it? It's such a lovely story. And he's like, I've definitely got to come back now. I've got the Ibiza bug again. Yeah. So
we're here at the Ministry. I know you came back to play of one of the things circa 91, when I think the Ministry went back to the 90s and recreated. They had this like 10-day pop-up and you came back to play. What does it mean to you, again, especially living near the Ministry, growing up near the Ministry, to play at such an iconic club?
Well, you know, I mean, you know, originally the Ministry was like, it was just a shell. Like you used to,
it was a car park, wasn't it?
Yeah, you just used to come and like bring your own water and everything, because you couldn't drink. You weren't allowed to drink.
Like
there was no alcohol. Yeah, so I think it's ingrained in many of our lives. I mean, it's an enormous business now, and just because I understand the business, and I was in the music business side, you see this, the enormity of where things can go, really, the brand, the record labels, and we're in this like super swanky members club, aren't we? So, the Ministry is endless.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like places like the Ministry gave us, I think Ministry Heaven gave us the Warehouse Club, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That feeling of raw, it wasn't, China White. It wasn't about sat down culture. It wasn't about VIPs. It was about get your club on, Yeah.
And standing next to these speakers
that were just like hitting your stomach.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
And seeing DJs, like, especially with Ministry, like seeing some of your American idols, like,
Frankie Knuckles.
Yeah, like, you know, and Justin Berkman, what a fantastic head of A&R, like the people that he was bringing to the club that, you know, were, Junior Vasquez, Frankie Knuckles, David Morales, you know, like you're you know, always on the shopping list, you know.
Yeah.
Danny Tenaglia. Well, not Danny Tenaglia then, because Danny Tenaglia used to be afraid to fly.
Okay.
Yeah, so he didn't do much travelling for ages and ages, Danny.
Yeah. Would you say Ministry's got one of the best booths that you played in?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But the sound in heaven was like, whoa. And Fabric.
And Fabric as well,
Fabric, the sound is unreal.
It is actually. I still think it's on your best clubs.
And I love, you know, like, you know, the Fabric Body Sonic dance floor, the fact that it sort of feeds up from the floor, you know, in the main room, you know, and it's bouncing you. It's just like, I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So if you could go back to any club now in the 90s and be on the dance floor of that club, which one would it be? It could be Nika, it could be Ibiza, it could be.
I think I'm going to go Space or Pasha. Well, that's not one, is it? But when you're as old as me and this is all you've done, there's never just one of anything, you know. But I suppose that real losing. Well, really, I want to go to Amnesia.
Yeah.
With Alfredo there. Yeah. That's where I really
That's where you want to be. Yeah.
But obviously, Amnesia. If you look at Amnesia, how it is now, it's nothing like what it was for us lot. You know?
Well, it used to be like a dirt track, didn't it? Outside.
Yeah. I mean, it literally was. You know,
it had no infrastructure, and then they actually put that dual carriageway in because people just come out of the club and just walk straight across the road, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was so unique.
Yeah. I know. And then, I mean, I went there to interview like Paris Hilton at Amnesia.
Did you?
Yeah, so she won like Best International DJ, didn't she? Like 5 years in a row. But, you know, and that was, the club had completely changed from when I first went there in the late 90s.
Yeah, you know, and that's a really interesting thing because that could not be more different to what I know.
Yeah.
It has, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
So do you think it's changed for the better, for the worse? What are your thoughts on how somewhere like Ibiza's evolved?
Well, I think what my generation are seeing is there's a lot of like really, really cool little small restaurant-y sort of like daytimey things with like small capacity-wise clubs with great sound systems and stuff like that. And I think that's where we're all headed, 5 to 8, which is not small, but it's got the intimate sort of vibe, you know, Pikes, everyone's over, you know, the rules
Cafe
are you've got to be
Mambo.
over 27, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Mambo's not for me. Don't get me wrong, I love Javier, I love everyone, you know, but it's not where I feel most comfortable in the sense of like hearing the music that I want to hear, you know, being a part of, you know, a scene as such. The big clubs, you know, I don't think they cater for my age group really anymore, and that's fine, you know.
Yeah, no,
that's fine.
It's a young crowd as well, isn't it? You go to like Glitterbox.
Yeah.
But there are still us oldies that are there on the dance floor.
There's a lot more than people think, you know. There's a lot more than people think, and I think that what's really encouraged me of late is, you know, I did a club night in Southampton called 303 Collective. I did, you know, all these little kind of clubs that have got a nucleus of you know, people that are there in it for the music. You know, they're there when it, you know, not shortly after it opens, and they're there to dance, and they're a little bit older, but it's very alive, you know.
Do you think it's a shame, though, that, you know, people kind of more go to a club now to be seen and with their phones in the air, and, you know, maybe they're not as immersed in it as they were back when we were clubbing? I
think immersion is like the absolute, you know, that's the word, you know. They're not immersing themselves. They are, you know, but social media has a hell of a lot to do with that, because it's sort of like, you know, if you don't document me here, there and there, I haven't lived, you know. But it's like, actually the whole point of us living was like, let's scurry around and find out where the next party is. Let's, you know, like, you know, all of those sort of things, 0891 numbers and stuff like that, you know, and it happened. So it obviously can happen. But yeah, it's very different. And you know, and it's really performance led, where the old kind of DJ culture is very much about, you got to deliver as a DJ, but you weren't in a spotlight really. You were
behind the scene.
Or up somewhere, or often people didn't even know where the DJ was, you know, sort of thing, because clubs would be so dark and
Did you feel more comfortable like being behind?
Yeah, I mean, it is, you know, it is what we were bred on, you know. We were all about the music, the atmosphere, you know, the journey, the impact, you know, rather than, you know, look at me for a different reason. Yeah. But then, you know, those kids idolise those DJs, and that's fine too.
Of course.
You know, I'm not an old battle axe that sort of sits there thinking, you took my scene away, you know, like with me old big old knickers on. I'm doing my thing like most weeks, you know, I'm having a great time.
But I think it just goes to show, you know, I went to the Reminisce Festival in September, and you know, it was 20,000 tickets sold, and 16,000 tickets of those sold were when the first release, you know, and so the festival had nearly sold out.
I love that.
Announced, and there was so many people that were there, you know, from, you know, there was obviously loads of youngsters, which is great because they want to come along and see what all the vibe's about, what the fuss is about. But then talking predominantly to people there were 40, 50, 60. But they all wanted to come.
I love that. You know, isn't it wonderful when there are, you know, various ages, you know, and everyone getting on with it. Yeah. I DJ'd at, I think I mentioned it to you, I DJ'd at Alex James. Yeah. Alex James from Blur.
Oh my God, I love Blur.
Oh, me too.
I'm obsessed with Blur.
Totally.
We're such mums.
But they, you know, they used to come out all the time. I mean, you know, I'd always be running into them in West London when I was DJing constantly. Damon Albarn would be, you know, like told in fault somewhere, you know.
But Alex, you saw
Alex James. I DJ'd at his festival for him.
The Cheese Festival.
And there's one area that is absolutely focused on dance because there's you know, beautiful food everywhere, and then there's the more poppier stuff and all that sort of stuff. And that, it was so electric, but it was like, there was mosh pit vibes going on. The crowd were like that. I was playing loads of new stuff. Wow. I played some big 90s tunes, but it was just in the mix. They were all in the mix. And there was, you know, dads with their kids. You could see them arm in arm, jumping up and down, you know, and then I'm coming off stage and I'm speaking to the dads, and then the dad's like, these are my boys, you know, and everyone was just in the moment. There was no phones. If they had their phone out, God knows where it would have ended up, because it was just bouncing.
How great is that?
So that is wonderful, and I think you get that in festivals, and I think that, you know, that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. I don't think you get it necessarily where I play as you know, in a smaller environment.
So let's talk about FUBAR.
Yeah.
The acronym of that, maybe, I'm sure you can say. I used to come to FUBAR. It was one of, you know, I was a student in London, and it was the one event that I came to religiously.
Good girl.
Every Sunday night with you, Nancy Noyes and Brandon Blott.
Yeah.
So there's a reunion, isn't there? It's happening this weekend.
So the reunion is the Milk Bar.
The Milk Bar.
Which was the venue. So Nikki Holloway, you know, promoter extraordinaire. I mean, he was promoting, like I mentioned earlier, he was promoting disco pubs we were only like teenagers.
Yeah.
So one of his venues was the notorious Milk Bar, you know, completely white.
Since gone, closed down.
Yeah, since gone, closed down. And God bless Nicky, he's been looking after his mother for a very long time, so hasn't been in the foray of promoting. So yeah, we're doing a reunion on Saturday. Is reunion the right word? A revisit? I don't know. Yeah. I can imagine it'll be all of the above.
Well, it'll be all the people that came initially.
Yeah, because like, you know, literally everyone I speak to is like, see you at Milk Bar. Yeah, we got tickets for the Milk Bar. Yeah. You know, and I think there's going to be a lot of old faces. So myself, Nikki Holloway, and Danny Ramplin are DJing. Nikki's got a lock-in.
Oh
I mean,
my
he's
God.
orchestrated
Carnage.
a lock-in at the venue, and another guy that used to DJ for us quite a lot at Food Bar called James Prentice, he's doing the lock-in. It's so funny. I'm just
my
like,
God.
you know.
Are you going to stay the distance? Of course you are. Of course you are.
We'll see.
So where is
do
it?
my best.
Where is the actual venue?
Oh, gosh.
Somewhere in North London?
Yeah. It's in North London. It's
Archway.
a venue that has never been used. I don't know the name of it.
I hope it didn't get shut down.
Can you remember the name of it?
I can't. But I know, I'm sure it's in Archway.
Yes. I think it's like 10 tickets away from being sold out anyway.
My God.
So
and
yeah,
it's cheap. It's 20 quid, right? So
I think he's
people are
done a
gonna
really good turn.
People are going to get value for money.
Yeah. And
get-
have the proper Milk Bar experience because
so
he's
for-
obviously invested in the sound from the original DJs that
So for people that don't know
about.
about Food Bar, explain the acronym.
Fucked up beyond all recognition.
And who came up with that?
Brandon.
Of course he did.
Brandon, yeah. So
my-
we used to do a Sunday night because we'd all obviously never had enough sort of being out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday day.
That was like me. I wanted to go out. I wanted to stay out.
I don't even know how we were still standing. Well, Brandon often wasn't. He would be asleep under the DJ decks and I'd be organising everything. But there you go. Same beef, different gravy, you know. Yeah, that was fun. And a Sunday night, I think, what
Did it finish at midnight? I can't remember.
Yeah, it finished at midnight.
Yeah. But it was, you went down some stairs.
That's right,
didn't you?
yeah,
It's right
yeah.
next to the Astoria.
Yeah, like opposite literally, in
door
that alleyway,
on the
though,
alleyways.
that goes down to Russell Square.
Go down.
Yeah.
And you go into the basement, wouldn't you? And it was a small venue there, was it? It was very intimate.
Yeah, about 200, I think, 250 maybe.
But I remember the Pet Shop Boys being in there.
Oh, there was all
Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe, at the bar.
There was, but we used to see them a lot. They was out a lot. I mean, often because their manager Mitch Clark is a really good friend of mine, and I used to hook up people to remix their records. So Felix the House Cat, who I used to manage, he remixed their records, and they were really into the dance music scene. All them, obviously, they were more electronic, electronic sound, electronic pop. But everything that they did lent itself well to a dance music remix. So you'd often see people like that out and about.
Yeah. But you don't really
Sade,
Yeah, but you would often get them mixing with you on the dance floor, wouldn't you?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's just
No,
something
God, there
that
was no VIP culture though.
Yeah. Did Oasis ever come out? Did Noel Gallagher? No lights to party.
I don't. Actually, I do remember being around Noel previously, but when I was working at London Records, so when I went to work for Pete Tong, I promoted All Saints, and we did the Beach soundtrack. Both were really, really successful. All Saints were a number one act, and they came after the Spice Girls, but were cooler and had that edge. And,
combat.
Yeah, so we had... London Records was like any excuse to have a party, basically. But those lot used to, Leonardo DiCaprio, we did a thing at the Met as sort of celebrating the beach. So the actors were, all at that. And then we'd carry on upstairs in the Metropolitan Hotel. And
the Met was like,
Party Central.
Party Central.
Yeah.
I miss those times too. So, but
there was always somewhere to go though, that's so
know.
different now.
We miss that.
There was always somewhere to go. Even Bar Italia was like, you had to squeeze in a bit of Bar Italia because that's where you'd have a meeting point or see people. But DJs have started playing there now.
I know they have.
I saw Samantha Blackburn DJing there the other day.
That is so cool.
I love that.
So you did also things like the BAFTA parties, didn't you? Do the after show party for Duran Duran?
It was Depeche Mode actually. Their no, that's all right. Their final Wembley show. So that was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all, Duran Duran and, all of those sort of like 80s lot were always at those sort of parties. They loved a party though, Duran Duran.
Do they? Yeah,
They did. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know about now, but, it was just so all-inclusive. No one felt superior to anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was going anywhere for a VIP experience. I think people were going out to, like, soak up this thing that was going on. It was like a phenomenon, the acid house movement, you know?
It was. I mean, it's just incredible that we actually had that. Do you feel sad that today's generation haven't had that or never had that chance to experience how wonderful it was?
I mean, you know, people, you know, life moves on, technology moves on, you know, smelling vinyl, going to shops, being in there all day, you know, getting the manager to put by this because you knew that was coming in, and you know, it's a very different experience. You know, I don't know what anything's called on my sticks apart from the things that are of yesteryear, really. I mean, I do, certain artists, I know all their records, but you know, because I'm down, you know, I can literally be on Beatport, Traxsource, Bandcamp. Next thing, I've got like 50 records in a file that I'm buying, you know, but then that's 50 quid. Yeah. 12 inches was 50 quid.
Yeah.
You know, so you were like really like, okay, I need that in my life, or I need that in my life, you know, it's very different.
So how has it been, obviously, a mum in an industry that's non-stop and very late nights? How have you managed to kind of juggle being a mum? You know, Tate's 13 now, but obviously you've been working all the way through.
Yeah.
How have you managed that?
It's really, really tough. And I think that there are things that are really tough about it that are far deeper than just the sleep deprivation or being out late at night. You know, I think that anyone that's a mother will second this. You know, your children are born with some kind of like guilt pack on their back that they hand over to you and go, here, you can get on with that now. And it becomes a thing in your life. So it can be something that spikes anxiety, guilt, you know, you don't feel like you're a good enough mum, you know, all of those things. So, you know, there are battles mentally. There are battles with your physical health, you know, have you still got it in you, and the getting up in the morning and making the football and, you know, the training and the blah, blah, blah. He is a bit more independent now. But yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough. But would I prefer to have not been a mum? No.
Yeah.
No. And, you know, he's an enormous influence on the positivity in my life. You know, and I'm delighted that I did it and that I managed to do it because as we were talking earlier, 42,
yeah. And then you had quite a traumatic birth as well, didn't you?
Yeah, that was really, really heavy. Yeah.
So was that a cesarean or?
I didn't have a cesarean in the end, but it was pretty major, you know. Yeah.
And it was enough for you to have to take some time out as well, or I suppose you were on maternity leave, or did you have maternity leave?
No. I was completely self-employed. So it was pretty full on. I definitely needed some time to relocate. I felt like I'd been run over by a bus. You know, I was like, oh right. I was in hospital for a week.
Wow, was it like a back-to-back? What was the sort of what happened?
I was in labour for absolutely ages and ages and ages. And then when he came, I lost loads and loads of blood. And then my blood pressure went completely sky high. And it was a whole lot of monitoring of that sort of stuff. Pretty scary, you know, because really you've got this responsibility of like this you know, this most precious life.
Yeah. And then were you a single mum for a bit as well?
Not then.
No.
Yeah, but after,
subsequently.
Yeah.
So, but having him has made you really want to actually help other mums, hasn't it? And maybe want to get into DJing or...
Yeah. I've always been an enormous female advocate anyway. You know, I'm always looking for new talent and very happy to talk about fantastic new talent, always. But the brainchild of someone else, not me, so I can't take the credit for it. There's a DJ called Middy the Minx.
Yeah.
She's like a big beat breaks sort of DJ. She has started a panel concept it's entitled Motherhood and DJs or DJs in Motherhood. And she launched the idea at the BMC, which is the Brighton Music Conference. So we did that. I was on that panel. When was that? That's like not so long ago, actually, whenever BMC was. But it was really insightful and really good, because there's 4 or 5 different mums, people sitting there. You start sort of seeing this conversation come alive. I've always been, up for, keeping things out in the open, try and help people, try and talk about it, try and make people feel like they can. I think it was a bit of a revelation. And I think, so we're doing another one for We DJ. Yes, this is November. Sunday, November the 8th or 9th.
And where will that be?
That's being held at 26 Leek Street, and it is a full music business conference. So there's panels, there's showcases, there's product showcases. So we're doing another, and let's see where it goes. I mean, I think there's an element of how do you really... We can help people by our own experiences and by what... I suppose certain signposts of like, wouldn't it be fantastic if you could just think about that like that, or if you develop that, then and having faith in yourself and building up yourself and all those things that make you so nervous when you've got a kid, the guilt, the anxiety, all of that. So I think we conquered quite a lot of those sort of subjects, which was really good. But I think that there's no maternity pay if you're a DJ. So someone sort of in the audience sort of said, what about a collective, I don't know, like forming some kind of group around this subject that would help people in those times, because, it's a massive situation.
It's a massive situation.
6 months or whatever, or however long. I mean, for me, I was also unwell quite a lot of the time, so it was quite tough. In other aspects, and there being no financial income coming to the house. So
so that's one good thing. And what about like writing a book? Because surely there would be a lot to put in it.
That's my next big project. And again, it's it indicative of the being a mum. And having my son, and when is the right time to write that book, given the content of the book? There's going to be some pretty debaucherous kind of references in that book, and there's going to be, a lot of affiliation to drugs. The subculture of everything that we do, has drug connotations, and writing a book and me pretending that I wasn't involved in it and didn't really do it and going, it was them and them and them and it weren't me. It can't be that, can it? So I think I'm earmarking when he's 16, because I think, he's already briefing himself on quite a lot of things, TV-wise, and getting to and asking a lot more questions. But I wouldn't want to embarrass him at school. I wouldn't want to embarrass him without him completely understanding, the subcultures that go with, with certain things. And the fact that it would be very different now. So maybe he's going to think, why? Why did they all need to be off their tits all the time? Or whatever, but, sort of thing. So it's about timing, really. It's only 2 years.
Do you think you'll be able to remember it all?
Oh my God! I mean, no, definitely not. But but I've got a lot of people that I can rely on, and there was a lot of people that were in my life. Well, all of the people that were in my life then are still the people that are in my life. So it was like when Brandon wrote his book. He's like, Bob, I need to meet you and Lisa, because I had a best friend at the time called Lisa Haran, and we were like the Lisas. He's like, 'cause I need you to help me with the 90s because I can't remember anything, So I think I'll be leaning on quite a few people to sort of make sure some of the information's right.
Right. And what about like the casualties along the way? Have you kind of lost people in the industry?
I feel like I'm losing people.
And what is that a result of being involved in the party scene? Or?
You know what? I think with COVID having happened, I think that there's a lot of uncertainty about whether those things were the right things to be happening. Is there an effect from the COVID jabs, and we were all in such uncertain times and stuff.
Well, it's interesting because more people are able to talk about it now, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's scary to talk about anything because we seem to be becoming a little bit more draconian week by week, you know, this country, and it's a bit frightening, I think. But yeah, most certainly there have been. I mean, you know, I've lost people through suicide, and they have to be some of the hardest times. You know, because of what they leave behind, you know, the heartache of what they leave behind. And yeah, I mean, I don't know about who was the lifestyle something to blame for some of the people that we're losing. Certainly in our generation, just on social media, there are more and more people passing.
Yeah.
But how would you know?
Do you know?
Really, you know? And, you know, it's not really something that you start calling up their, you know, loved ones and sort of, Yeah, but, I mean, at the moment, I seem to be celebrating the life of someone.
Yeah.
And then someone else passes.
Wow.
I've literally got a video of me and a young lady dancing at Johnny Mac's celebration of life, where we all DJ'd and put a bit of a party on for everyone to remember him, and 3 weeks ago, you know, she passed away.
Wow.
And so it's scary.
What, talking about, like, you know, being in the industry, and there must have been also some scary times, things that have happened to you, I don't know, like being alone in a club late at night or being at an airport. Is there anything kind of has happened to you that you've, you know, has made you really scared?
I've experienced, I mean, you know, touring Russia was not so much scary, but, you know, a real eye-opener. You know, you can't take, you know, I was on what can only be considered as, you know, a little square, you know, it was like a toy bus that took you from the airport to the terminal building. And I was so astounded by the fact that I'd gone from Moscow, which was boiling hot. I'm in like Nizhny Novgorod, and it was snowing. So I took out my camera to take a picture, and the next thing I was sort of surrounded by Kalashnikovs, like, you know, like, no photo. So that was pretty scary. I was like, it's all right, okay, no worries.
Wasn't there
I
an
was
instant
traveling.
Istanbul?
Yeah, I was DJing in Istanbul with Massive Attack for a show, and my friend had just bought a house in Spain, not Ibiza. I mean, the market's over there, so I like bought loads and loads of cushion covers for their soft furnishings as a present, and I left it in the car of the driver's car. I was like, oh no, you know, I was still travelling with vinyl then.
Yeah.
And so I'm calling the promoter to call the driver to get, so anyway, all of this kerfuffle that's going on at the door, I was just like, I must have been, you know, putting up various red flags to all of the security, because, you know, entering Istanbul, you sort of go through a security and then you go through a more security.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get my cushion covers and then I get called over to like a little cubicle thing, and this guy's like, you know, looking in the record boxes and swabbing the record boxes, and it's like cocaine's coming up as a reader. So how much money have you got on you? I'd been paid in cash, so in dollars, and swabbing the money. It's like cocaine's coming up as a reader. It was just like, oh my God. So they thought I was a drug mule.
No. Stashing the drugs in the pillowcases.
Seriously, it was like, you know, I must have had a skirt on that was as big as, you know, a sort of belt, you know, big hoop earrings, bohoed up to the max, like thinking, do I look like a cocaine mule? Do you know what I mean? It was just like, oh my God. Anyway, I missed every flight for that day, every flight, and I'm like, get the chief of police, get someone, get me a lady police officer, someone that can translate and all that sort of stuff. And this guy, he's got such a bee in his bonnet about me, you know, like, you know, who are you carrying the drugs for? Who is your boss? And I'm like, mate, like, you know, it's like that's music that sits in nightclubs all over the world, you know, where there must be cocaine particles the minute that you walk in and breathe, you know? It's like, it's ridiculous. And I just about made the final flight of getting out of Istanbul. The chief of police did come down and he did this with my nose and he looked at this guy who's about 6'5" and he's like, blah, 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 screaming at this guy and gave him a slap. And then they rushed me through and I got on the flight. So that was pretty alarming. I'm like, oh my God, Midnight Express is unfolding in front of my eyes and it includes me. You know, so that was pretty
You lived to tell the tale.
Lived to tell the tale.
And here you are.
And I wasn't cocaine smuggling.
And you weren't cocaine smuggling. Oh no. But you're still going and you've got no signs of giving up.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. Not yet. I've still got a few years in me, I guess.
And there's still people that want to come and see. Do you think also, just finally, that because maybe of the state of the country, people want to come to kind of 90s nights just to kind of escape and feel that sort of unity and sense of freedom again?
I do think so. And I think, when there was the former recession, actually there was nights on at the Milk Bar that were Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Darren Emerson did a night, didn't he? I can't remember what it was called. I think it was called Recession.
Yeah.
Where it was £1 to get in or something like that, you know, because it wasn't about buying tickets and stuff like that. But yes, I do think that there's, everyone wants a bit of release right now.
Yeah.
It's, since COVID, we're all trying to recover from that. And there's so many losses. People lost close family members. It's like a whole rebuilding of life going on at a time where nothing seems to be building. Everyone's just, fighting with each other.
Yeah.
And there's a terrible manipulation, I feel, going on. It's like people say, don't get caught up in the race war. This is a class war. And we're seeing it, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Seeing it. The rich getting very, very, very rich.
That divide.
It's massive again. And there was a time in the 90s where I think we'd overcome so much with Maggie.
Yeah.
And it was, love, peace and unity. And people were willing to help each other as well. But I don't think it's like that at the moment. I think it's a bit of a battle. Yeah.
So to come and see you at somewhere like the Milk Bar or events coming up later in the year, people are going to have a good time, right?
Yeah. I've not changed, I've not changed.
No.
The music's going to be on point. I'll hopefully keep you dancing with a smile on my face.
Right. Are you going to give us a little dance to finish it off?
No, you don't want to see that.
No? Why not? Is the room too small for you?
Yeah.
Really?
There's no music unless you're going to sing.
No, God, no. That will really turn people
don't
off.
Put it on me.
We could do like a little... No, I don't think anyone wants to see two middle-aged mums getting up dancing.
Well, they do on Saturday.
Yeah, they will on Saturday. That's a different environment. Listen, it's so nice to have you on